Madam Chair, you are live.
Welcome, everyone, to Senate Education. Glad to see some more of these young faces out there. So appreciate seeing, not that we don't appreciate the older folks in the room, but the ones that we see all the time. It's just great to see some new faces. So anyway, we have 3 bills today that we're going to take a look at. 2 of them belong to me and 1 to Senator Brennan. So we've asked Senator Olson if he would chair while I present mine and also Senator Brennan's. And would you guys prefer that I go down in front or present from here?
Totally up to you.
Totally up to me. Well, if it's up to me, I'm going to stay here. So, all right. Well, the first bill we're going to take a look at then, let's take roll. Just, just for the heck of it.
This is roll call for February 18, 2026, Senate Education. Senator Brennan,
Here.
Senator Olson,
Here.
Senator Rothfuss,
Here.
Senator Scott,
Here.
Chairwoman Schuler.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay. With that, take over.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Yes, the first bill for our consideration today is going to be Senate File 35, School District Cell Phone and Smartwatch Policies, brought to us by Senator Schuler. And we'll go ahead and let you walk us through the bill.
Thank you, Senator. This bill, Senate File 35, School District Cell Phone and Smartwatch Policies, it kind of ties in with the bill I brought last year. I brought a bill last year after hearing from a lot of districts about some of the issues they were having with cell phones in the classrooms. And apparently the Senate decided it was maybe a little too narrow. They wanted to have a little bit more local control than what I offered. I offered a bill that basically just banned cell phone use during instructional time. So I visited with some districts. I think I surveyed about a dozen districts in Wyoming to see kind of where they were with their cell phone policies. I found a couple that had already just started policies, a couple that were in the process of trying to get some policies going, and some that had nothing yet on the books. But they knew that that was a problem. So they were not super crazy about having the state come down on them and tell them what they could and couldn't do. So I thought maybe this bill would help with that. So what this bill does is it requires school districts to adopt policies governing students' possession and use of cell phones and smartwatches in schools. And then basically what we hoped for is then they would try to have some dialogue with their students, with their administration, with their school board, with the people in their communities, and to try to find out what works best for their community. What works best in Farson might not work best in Cheyenne. What works best in Cody might not work best in Lyman, Wyoming. So really it is up to each school district to decide what that policy looks like. And hopefully by having lots of participation by all of the stakeholders, they'll come up with something that will be a win-win for their community. So with that, I would just add too that I did a lot of research last year, and honestly, the cell phone usage is really, it's nationwide. It's a problem. And I think there's about 32 states right now that have banned cell phone usage. That would actually be my preference, really, if we could just ban it during instructional time. But I followed the wishes of my senators and said, let's let each district decide how they wanted to go this route. And just for your edification, the district I taught in last, their policy is now, it's this first year that they put it in place. It goes from bell to bell. So students cannot have, they can have them in their backpacks, they can have them in their lockers, but they can't have them out at all. And I talked to some of the teachers to see what they thought about it. And they said, you can't believe how well this is working. Kids are actually at lunchtime, they're talking to each other, they're socializing, they're having fun by, communicating with each other. They said before lunchtime, it was almost quiet because the kids would take their phones out while they were eating and there was no communication. And they said it's helped with their discipline problems. They don't have to worry about the cyberbullying and some of the sexting and some of the things that we know happen with cell phones. And they said really their discipline problems are down a lot. They're excited to see where their test results of some of their tests might be. They think maybe they'll see improvements in test scores, but they definitely are seeing improvements in behavior. And so, that's the only district I know of right now that's doing a bell-to-bell policy. One of the other districts in my county is got one that's a little less stringent than that, where they allow to have them before school, at lunch, after school. And all of them will probably make concessions, obviously, for those students who need to have those cell phones for health issues or, medical issues, and or if they're on a IEP where they need to have that. So I think I trust the districts to come up with some good policies. And for those that don't have them yet, this is why I brought this bill. We need to have everybody come up with something. Because as you all know, it's a problem. There's a book I would like to recommend to everybody by Jonathan Haidt. And it's just amazing, all the data that this gentleman has done on cell phones. And he basically just said, kids really shouldn't have them until they're at least 12 or 13. And if they have them, they shouldn't have any access to social media till they're at least 16. And lots of data. So it's an amazing book. And anyway, the State Department of Education would, after each district gets their policies in place, it will go to the State Department of Education just to be on file. And that's pretty much the bill. So I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Schuler. Committee, any questions? I have one.
Yes.
So it's not just cell phones. We include smartwatches, which the smartwatch is an extension of a cell phone. So I think that makes logical sense. But I'm curious if you've thought of including smart glasses. So you can text from smart glasses. You can receive phone calls from smart glasses. You can do everything on a smart glass that you can do on a watch, but you're doing it from your glasses. And I don't know how popular those are in the schools. I haven't necessarily heard of them being issues or problems in schools, but just thinking about technology, and I mean, it's always something we can revisit at a later time, but I'm just curious if you've heard anything about those or.
Senator, that's a really good question. And obviously he's a little probably more advanced with technology than I am, as you can tell. I've heard of them. I don't know anything at all, really much about them. But that's probably something that maybe I should have considered and looked into that a little bit. And so that's something that, maybe we can take a look at. I could probably do a little research, and if it looks like something we could amend it to maybe later, I could certainly take a look at that. It's a good question, though.
Great. Okay. Other questions, committee, before we open it up to public comment? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. Wyoming Department of Education, do you have any comments on this legislation? Are there any other agencies in the room wishing to testify on this bill? How about any associations? Mr. Farmer, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman, I guess. Members of the committee, I am Brian Farmer with Wyoming School Boards Association. We don't really take a position on this bill, but do want to express gratitude for the manner in which the bill has been drafted. The approach taken by the chairwoman is definitely the preference for school districts across the state. The big hang up, I think, for us is the desire to include stakeholders in the development of a plan. When we craft plans, we want to hear from parents, we want to hear from teachers, we want to hear from others to craft those plans that will fit the communities, and this bill does allow for that. So we very much appreciate that approach and wanted to express gratitude for that. I can also affirm the chairwoman said that she thinks most districts are already doing this, and that is correct. Our districts either have policies, maybe it's in a handbook. They have addressed the issue in some manner, some question within the district as to what their local approach would look like. For some districts, it will require the formalization of a policy, but that's okay. They've already started that work, talking about that. So if this is a policy preference of the legislature, we appreciate this path. With that, I'd be open to questions.
Any questions from Mr. Farmer? All right, thank you for your testimony. Additional public testimony. Anyone in the room? Do we have anyone online wishing to testify on this bill?
Does not appear so.
All right, well then I will go ahead and close public comment. And committee, what is your pleasure?
Bill.
It's been moved by Senator Brennan
Second.
and seconded by Senator Rothfuss. Amendments to this bill? Senator Rothfuss.
Chairman, for discussion, and I won't propose it yet and see what everyone thinks about it. We say cellular phones and smart watches on line 6, and getting to your point, we could say something like smart devices, other smart devices, et cetera, be a little bit broader, recognizing that we do have glasses and other possibilities. That would obviate the need also for the definition on lines 11 through 17. So part of that would be potentially deleting that definition, which I don't know if we really need in statute. A definition of smartwatch that it's first of all intuitive, and second of all, they I think address in their policy exactly what it says here, which is we're talking about the smartwatches that are effectively equivalent to the cell phone and not those that are monitoring health, et cetera. So that's my thought, is to generalize it so we don't have to come back and change it. Go with smart devices, and I just see what others think about that idea.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like that idea. I think capturing all, and we don't know what technology in the future past smart glasses is going to be. So I would be very happy to entertain that if it's friendly.
We'll accept that as at least a second for purposes of discussion.
Yeah.
All right. Senator Scott, you wanted to say something? Okay.
And I'd look to the sponsor and see.
Yes, Senator Schuler.
Yeah, Senator Olson, I would be fine with that. I think that's a good catch.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then I'll make that motion formally.
Formal motion, okay.
Line 6,
Okay.
strike smartwatches and insert, I guess just watches and insert
Yeah.
devices at that point. So it would read possession and use of cellular telephones and smart devices in schools, and then strike beginning on line 11 with the word "for" through line 17 so that we don't include the definition.
It's been moved by Senator Rothfuss and seconded by Senator Brennan. Any additional discussion on this amendment? I was just going to add my 2 cents. I think that, I mean, it's already been said, but my fear would be that if we're too restrictive in the statute, that as technology evolves, we're just going to have to come back to try to keep up with it. The only hesitation I have is I do like the portion of the smartwatch definition that clearly excludes, like a fitness band, basically. I can see it's going to be up to the district. The district could definitely write a policy that excludes that on their own. Nothing would prohibit them from doing that. So I don't know. It's not a huge hang up for me. I do think it's a little helpful.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Rothfuss.
on that, we could change it so that it says smartwatch shall not include, or excuse me, smart device shall not include a wearable device that can only tell time, et cetera. And that actually is pretty generalized at that point as well. Or we could, at that point, we'd probably want to say A. I don't know that we'd want to use the quote since we're not defining it now.
Right.
So we'd say a smart device shall not include a wearable device that can only tell time, monitor a person's health, or track a person's information. So that would allow us to leave it. I think that's a friendly amendment if it's friendly with the second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Very good. Now I can put a tracking device on my kid when I send them
You
to school.
sure can.
All right. Any other discussion on this amendment? Ready to vote? Everybody in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, that amendment has been adopted. Are there any other amendments to this bill? All right, any discussion on the bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I'll just thank Senator Schuler. I think this is exactly the right approach. And I appreciate the continued hard work on this legislation, knowing that she's been working on this for a few years now. This is, in my opinion, the right approach.
I'll just say, I hear, since you brought this bill last year, I've heard a lot more from teachers on the issue. And what I hear from teachers the most, I'll say, is that they don't feel like they have the support from their administration to enforce, because like in my district, every school, there's already policies in place, but what the teachers don't have is they don't have backup from administrators to enforce the rules, so then they don't enforce the rules. And I think having this in statute will encourage administrators to back up their teachers. So I really appreciate the bill. Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also just wanted to add my comment, and I definitely appreciate the bill. I think it was interesting. We had students from, I believe it was Cody here, that were supportive of this, and their school went to this last year, a ban on cell phones during class time. I think theirs was bell to bell. And they said they supported this, and I was intrigued. I said, why are you, the students, supporting a cell phone ban? And they said, we're more focused, we can learn, the environment was better, was kind of the summary that I understood them to say. So I think that was very interesting. And so I appreciate that we're, telling districts, you at least need to have a policy. I think if it were up to me, the policy would be a bell-to-bell ban for the whole state, but we believe in local control, so.
Okay, any other discussion on this bill? Nope. Oh, go ahead, Senator Scott. Sorry.
I would say I'm very supportive of this. I've much preferred the stronger measure, but we couldn't get that through.
You preferred the draconian approach.
Yeah, bring the dragons.
You said. You said so.
All right. Will you please do a roll call vote on Senate File 35?
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 35 as amended. Senator Brandon. Senator Olson.
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss. Senator Scott. Chairwoman Schuler. Chair, that is 5 ayes.
Do you want
Do you want me-
back over for
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go
Sure,
ahead.
sure. All right, the next bill for our consideration is Senate File 90, School Facilities Use Fees. This was sponsored by good Senator Brennan. We'll turn the time over to her.
Thank you, Chairman Schuler, and I can present here or down there if you guys have.
Appears fine, it's your choice.
All right, I will stay here. So this bill is a little bit of a resurrection with a few changes to a bill that I ran a couple years ago on school facilities use fee. What we've had in my district is that we've had several different sports clubs that have tried to use school facilities and had a difficult time in getting into the district, into the school facilities, in being able to make an agreement with the district on some reasonable fees. About, I don't know, a few months ago, the district had a proposal and it would have cost the Cheyenne Swim Club like $40,000 to $50,000 just to rent the pool for the use of these kids being able to swim year round. This isn't just a problem in this district. I know that there's places, Sheridan, and I think over on the east side of the west side of the state too. There have been problems with this, and I also hear a lot of frustration from the public because these are buildings that are built with public tax dollars, and the school districts are only allowing them for the purposes of school and not for public use when the schools aren't in session and being used by the schools. So this bill is an attempt to change that. If you turn to page 2 of the bill, you'll see that we're asking any rental fees charged by the district for use of school district property by youth clubs. So this does limit this part just to youth clubs and activities that are sponsored to the district, that they would, excuse me, have a morning frog in my throat, not exceed the hourly rate of personnel, equipment, and utility cost incurred by the district for that specific use of the property that they're using during the rental period. So if they're renting the pool, it would be to those costs. If it was the gym, it would be to those costs. It wouldn't be, they wouldn't throw in a cost of the pool if you're only renting the gym, or vice versa. Section B asks, upon request, be supported by an itemized statement identifying the district's personnel, equipment, and utility cost, just so that the clubs can have that itemized statement so that they know what they are. And then it gives a time for that to be given to them. And then this does not, the other thing that we said is this shall not be construed to impair any contract or agreement entered into before July 1, 2026. So any agreement that a district already has in place, they can keep that in place, and this bill does not affect that. And then this would go into effect on July 1st of 2026. And that's the bill.
Questions, committee? Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, I'm playing with the idea of an amendment. I want to service it before, at this time, just so that getting comments from the public. And what I'm trying to do is encourage districts to charge no fees. And so what I would insert on page 2, line 6, after the statutory reference there, insert for use of district property by youth clubs and activities not sponsored by the district. There is no requirement for the district to charge any fees. Period. The district may vary this policy depending on the nature of the use and the degree of benefit to district students. So that essentially we're telling districts that don't construe this meaning you have to charge a fee. You can perfectly well not charge a fee, and I would think that it would depend, it's one thing to use an inside swimming pool where you've got to have all kinds of equipment running and there's some significant costs. It's another thing to let some tag football group use the outside field without any particular charge, because there really isn't that much of it. There's some cost to the district, but not a lot. And I think especially in our smaller districts that where the school facilities may be the only ones really available in the locality, that having a minimal fee or a no fee policy might make a lot of sense to the community as a whole.
Is there any?
But I want to see what reaction.
Sure. Anyone have any discussion on that? It's not a,
I do.
okay, go ahead,
It's a
Senator.
semi-amendment. I'm definitely in favor of a minimal fee. You said no fee or a minimal fee. I think the bill as drafted is designed to provide for that minimal fee. I support that. The no fee, there are personnel costs at most. You have to let the janitor, you have to pay the janitor to stick around to close up shop and all of that. So, there are some expenses, but beyond that, my concern, Senator Scott, with your amendment is that it may be outside of the scope of this bill. The title of this bill is rental fees charged. The way that I read that, there has to be a fee. You can't eliminate the fee. The title is not, elimination of fees charged. It's for fees charged. So for rental fees charged. So my fear is that you may be pushing the boundary a little bit with that. And it's your amendment, but I do think it pushes the boundary of the bill title a little bit.
Madam Chairman.
Senator, go ahead.
I don't think it does. The bill does impose requirements for rental fees. Shows the school district, but I think that saying you can have a requirement that's you can have a no fee policy, I think is perfectly within that. It's permissive rather than requiring it.
Senator Olson?
No, I mean, there's multiple ways to read a bill, I suppose. I'll respect Senator Scott's view of the bill, but like I said, I think it pushes the boundaries of the bill.
Other discussion? All right, keep that under your hat for now, Senator, and when it comes time to move the bill, we'll see whether that lands or not, so. Excuse me? Oh, did you have something, Senator Office? Did I miss you? Oh, okay. All right. Well, if there's no other discussion on the bill, I did have just one question, and it's on page 2, and I don't know. The itemized statement, there has to be a request for that then by the club or the group. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Madam Chairman, that is correct. And the reason why this is in here is just that way that if the district sends out a bill, that it can be itemized, that the club can know, hey, this is what we're paying for the janitorial, this is what we're paying for the utilities, and this is what we're paying for different things. It might be a little work on the district, but they know kind of relative costs, and just to make sure that we're not inflating the cost of a use beyond what it should be.
So I guess what I'm understanding then, Senator, is if they have to request that. So if the club comes up and
Yes.
says, well, they're charging us $200, that's what they charged last year for the gym for 3 hours, it seems reasonable. We don't need that, then they don't have to request that. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Chairman. This would only be upon request.
Answers my question. Thanks so much. Any other discussion on the bill? Okay, well, with that, we'll go ahead and open up public testimony. Does WDE want to come up and give us a couple of words here and there on this bill? Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, Dickie Shaner, Department of Education. Superintendent Degenvelder supports this bill. She's a big supporter of youth activities and knows that there is a huge demand for facilities across the state, and this would help provide fairness and both transparency in the use of school district facilities for those activities. So,
Okay. Questions for Mr. Shaner? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else agency-wise that would like to come up? Okay, then we'll just open it up for anyone that would like to testify on this bill. Welcome back, Mr. Farmer.
Thank
Welcome
you,
back.
Madam Chair. Brian Farmer, Wyoming School Boards Association. Likewise, on this bill, we don't take a specific position, but I do have one request for your consideration. And then I would be happy to respond to Senator Scott's questions or thoughts. On page 2, at line 12, this is the part of the bill where we're talking about what would go into a use or rental fee. We have personnel, equipment, utility costs. I would request that you consider after equipment adding supplies. It seems reasonable that if supplies are consumed in the use of the facility, that the user be responsible for those supplies as well. And that is my request.
Questions for Mr. Farmer? Senator? No? I think that's a good catch. And I think thinking about different clubs and different activities, I think that's a good catch. No questions, though. I think you're off the.
Madam Chair,
Would you like to talk about
would
the?
be happy to
absolutely.
if the senator requested that. I don't read this to imply that a fee is required. I believe when it says any rental fee charged, that implies that that is sort of conditional, that only when a rental fee is charged would these conditions apply. And therefore, it would not be implied that a rental fee is necessary. So I think the senator's concerns or comments are already implicit in that. And I do agree that there are occasions where school districts, when they don't incur cost, are happy to allow users to use without fee. If a Girl Scout troop meets in a classroom after school and personnel are already there, there is likely no additional cost. And so in those occasions where that happens, I believe that does occur and no fee is charged.
And just to follow up on that, I did talk to a couple of different districts on this, and one of the smaller districts I talked to, they just basically say, we don't charge a fee, but we just expect that they clean it up and leave it as they found it, because they don't have a night janitor. But I think the bigger districts probably would end up having to maybe charge something, because if they have to if they don't have that person on staff already, I think that might be something they might see, so. But it's interesting. It does differ between the large schools and the small schools too, as to the usage. So, other questions for Mr. Farmer? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Farmer, do you feel it's been brought to my attention, if these clubs or organizations are using these facilities when there's already a janitor in the facility that the district is paying for, is it reasonable to ask that club to pay for that, or unreasonable? Because that's a cost that the district's already like occurring. Do you think, an excess cost for when they stay late? I don't think anybody has a problem saying, if you're staying late past your hours, like that's a cost to the club that should be charged. But what if that janitor is already there under those hours that they're working for the school district? Who should be responsible then for those charges?
Mr. Farmer?
Madam Chair, Senator, I wouldn't begin to conceive of the wide variety of things that could happen. I think just because somebody is on staff does not necessarily mean that they would not have had to incur extra work because of something. I do believe that on case-by-case basis, our districts do try to work with individuals to account for those costs. And so I think that there are conceivable situations where it could occur both ways, where a person on staff is doing extra duty and therefore necessary for the user to be compensating for that, and situations where that's just not the case. I believe as written, this allows for those broad experiences, and then you're able to kind of district address it on a case by case. User is allowed to see the itemized explanation. If the user wants to dispute that with the district, they now have information that they could come and dispute that with the district, and on that case by case basis, deal with the facts and circumstances of that situation. So I think as drafted, this provides that good solution for all cases.
Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up, Senator? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in the room that would like to testify on this bill? Come on up. It's okay. We can have a couple of you up here at a time. No worries. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Joe Milcheski. I'm here today. I live here in Cheyenne. I'm here today as a coach for the 8th grade junior tribe basketball program. We're a club sport. I've coached my kids since they were in kindergarten. So I've got a group that's heard me talk about getting back on defense an awful lot. This is very much, this is a big problem in Laramie County, but in my travels around the tournament circuit, talked to quite a few coaches, and this is a problem statewide. There's not transparency around the fees that schools charged. And in some districts, it tends to be that the smaller the district, the lesser the bureaucracy, the easier it is to get in the gyms. That's just a fact of life. But to give you a sense of some of the fees, here in Laramie County to get into a high school gym, which I can't. They make it too hard to do. So I gave up trying. But they would charge about $50 an hour. Laramie's 30 to 50, depending, or Albany County, sorry. Natrona County can be up to $100 an hour to get in the high school. But a lot of these districts will waive those fees if you know somebody, if you have a teacher who's helping you coach, things like that. So it's not uniform. And so one of the problems we run into is, like in Albany County, for instance, under their rules, they can charge for direct and indirect cost, which means they can essentially pass on part of the building depreciation as part of the fees that programs are being charged to use the gym. So when we go into these gyms, if you drive home tonight after session, hopefully it's not too late, the lights are going to be on in these schools. I mean, that's just the way these buildings are. And so you've got a facility that's already built, already staffed, custodians are already there. I don't think we're increasing the costs by a single nickel by being in there and running a 2-hour practice. We're just not. If we were trying to get in on a weekend, if we were trying to get in late, after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sure, we should pay a fee for that. Absolutely. But these buildings are already there. They're already paid for. And in communities like Cheyenne that don't have a lot of options, they're absolutely critical for these kids to be able to get out and play. The last thing I would ask is, I really like Senator Scott's proposed amendment, because what we really need here is a statement from the legislature that the legislature wants and expects these facilities to be available for public use, especially by nonprofits. We haven't had that. I think there's quite a few districts in the state that work really hard to make this stuff work. There's a few districts that don't. And I think what we need is a statement from the legislature, which passing this bill would do, that says these buildings should be open for public use. They're already there. They're already paid for. If we can help kids be healthier, grow, we want to be a part of that. So happy to answer any questions, but thank you.
Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Schuler. You mentioned that you've just given up trying to use school facilities at this point because it's too hard to get in. Besides costs that can be prohibitive, is there anything else that's made it difficult to get in?
Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, absolutely. So in my day job, I work with state and local governments around the country. There's probably nobody who's better in this building at navigating a government website than me. I mean, I've seen these from New Mexico to Colorado to Wyoming. And the systems that the districts put in place to reserve these things are unusable. They have the steps you have to take just to become a user, you wouldn't believe. So part of it is, I'll call it mechanical, procedural. Part of it is some of these district policies will require a group before they can use a school to be registered as a nonprofit. Now, a lot of these club sports teams, especially like mine, we don't go through the steps to file a statement of formation. We don't form a nonprofit. We just grab 6 kids and we go play in a basketball tournament. Everybody Venmos me $20. We go off and play. Forcing these groups to establish themselves as C6s or C3s is an administrative burden that a lot of folks just are not going to, those are hoops they're not going to jump through. And then the third one is insurance. And a similar bill was tried 2 years ago where the bill tried to get at this insurance problem. So these districts require clubs to carry $1 million in liability insurance to use the facilities. The state has a governmental claims act in place that caps liability. Plaintiffs' attorneys don't seem to care. They just look at that as completely toothless statute. I think this bill failed 2 years ago because it had an insurance fix in it, but that's a big problem. When you're asking these clubs to go get $1 million of insurance when the district is already covered under the Governmental Claims Act, now you're layering costs. Because I think $1 million policy, when I set one up to try to get access, it was $1,500 a year-ish. So, those are the three that I can think of off the top of my head.
I have a question also for you. Is it Milchewski? Did I
Yes.
say it right? Because I had a question on insurance and I'd heard from a couple of other districts that was happening. Would your personal insurance cover that?
Madam Chair, basically that's how I had to set it up, but you have to set up a separate policy because, for instance, the Laramie County School District requires LCSD 1 to be a named party in the insurance policy. So
So,
you can add it to your homeowner's coverage, which I did, but now you're asking coaches who just want to go teach pick and roll to add $1 million of liability coverage to their home. You know, you're asking us to take a fairly significant risk, which it's absurd.
thank you. Other questions? Yeah, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, listening to your testimony, it strikes me that what we're really trying to do is get the districts to limit their charges to the incremental costs. And I'm tempted to add an amendment to do that, just that, have a new subsection A and then just renumber the A and B that are here that says, it says the lead in is the district shall, and then A, limit fees to the incremental costs incurred by the district for the usage. Would that help in terms of beating the districts that are trying to just discourage usage back?
Mr. Michalski?
Madam Chair, I think that's a big help. That's a big help because these districts will use they will use every tool they can. I'm not going to say to keep clubs out, but there are some that don't want clubs in there for whatever reason. And so they will pick and choose the cost to add on to these things. And it can add up. You know, if you try to practice 2 hours, maybe twice a week, 5 or 6 week season, that's $1,000 in rental fees right there. And now I got to go ask the parents to chip in, and you know, the incremental cost would be a big help.
Yes, Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. Listening to all of this, I put together some language similar to Senator Scott's, but that also incorporates one of his other concerns for alternative language for paragraph A that would say, shall not exceed the hourly rate of personnel, equipment, utility, and supply costs actually incurred by the district for the specific use of the property during each rental period, limited to direct incremental costs that would not otherwise have been incurred, provided that nothing in this paragraph shall require the district to charge any fee, and the district may permit use without charge.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, sir? That amendment? That's a
Madam
mouthful, but
To the extent I understand it, it sounds like Christmas morning to me. I mean, that will help get kids into these facilities playing sports, and that's ultimately what we all want.
okay. Yes, Senator Olson.
So I like the amendment, but I think it still doesn't get to the heart of your issue, because your issue isn't necessarily the fee. It's the other things, the other hurdles they stack in front of you. The fact that you have to be a registered nonprofit, and the fact that you have to have an insurance writer, it seems to be, if not just as bad as the fee, worse than the fee. So I don't know about, you said something about previous legislation that addressed those issues.
Mr. Michalski?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there was a bill similar to this that Senator Brennan brought in 2004 that was similar language in trying to limit the cost to the actual costs incurred by the district, but then also had a section, I think, that struck the requirement that it created a pathway for districts to not require insurance. And without getting too far into the weeds, it failed in the House committee by 1 vote. I think because there was some confusion from council attached to the districts about whether the districts could actually make that work, or if that would have the opposite intended effect and keep kids out.
Okay.
To the extent that we're just talking about fees here, this is a little bit like how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. We can tackle the fees issue right now. And hopefully passage of this bill gives us the opportunity to go to the districts and say, look, legislature passed this, the governor signed it. They want kids in these buildings. I mean, this is step 1 in a multi-step process, but it's the first step. It's the most important one.
Okay.
Senator Rothfuss?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I remember the discussion around insurance. I think what we're doing here is much easier to tackle than the insurance. And I honestly think we should have insurance as an interim topic for our education committee, because it's a bigger deal than we're talking about. But what we're seeing is we've got government claims out there that should cover just about everything we need it to. But districts have to purchase other insurance. Those larger umbrella policies don't care that the Government Claims Act exists. And so they have to operate within their umbrella. And their umbrella tells them you can't have kids in your gym that aren't part of a nonprofit, that don't have an insurance entity. And that's rubbish. And I think we should work on it to try and fix that and get to the point where our government claims actually does what it's supposed to do. And our districts aren't paying for portions of policies that they don't need, but it's beyond their control, right? They can't step up to the insurance companies and say, well, I'm sorry. We've got the Government Claims Act and we don't want page 7. The pound sand is the answer at that point in time. So I think that's one of the reasons why we ran into problems before, because we're scratching at a problem that is so much bigger than this bill that we need to address independently from this bill and just get to the fees in this bill.
Good point. Senator Brennan, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senator Rothfuss has summed exactly the insurance problem that we ran into 2 years ago. And because it is such big, I would wholeheartedly support that we take that up as an interim topic on the Education Committee, because I have yet to figure out a way to get at that. As we go into working the bill, it might be pushing the limits. This might be outside the title. I don't know if there's anything we can do about districts that require these to register as a nonprofit. If we've got some solutions for that, that would be friendly to the bill. So just thoughts on that one.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yes.
just so I can eat some crow,
Yeah.
Chairman, I'll back up from my original statement on, I misunderstood Senator Scott's amendment. I thought Senator Scott was just trying to eliminate the fee altogether. So I was interpreting what you were doing completely different than just I agree it is permissive in the bill already. I don't know that your language is necessary, but it certainly would be helpful.
I prefer Chris's refinement of the language.
Yeah.
To my
Okay.
original trial, but thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Michalski? Okay. We have some other folks here that would like to testify. So just give us your name and tell us what you'd like us to know about this bill. And don't be afraid.
Chairman Schuler, members of the Senate Education Committee, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Do you want to get a little bit closer to your microphone? Is your green light on?
The green light is on.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Thank you so much. We can hear
Yeah.
you.
My name is Amy Tortich and I live here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I thank you for considering helping the families of Wyoming and what has become a battle to gain access to our local schools for Wyoming kids to practice, compete in sports and other youth activities. I have now personally spoken at 4 school board meetings, sent numerous letters to the board members, all unanswered. And I've had countless conversations with parents of athletes who share similar stories from all over the state. The school boards are not listening to parents. They appear to be listening only to the administrations and forgetting that the school buildings in every Wyoming county were built and paid for tax dollars to benefit our local youth. My local school board proposed outrageous fees this past fall that are temporarily on hold, but if passed will seriously harm and limit club sports and other youth activities. I fear that if left up to the school boards, local swimming and other youth activities will be decimated. I have 3 girls in a local swim club. Our monthly dues have been less than $50 a month per child for many, many years. Under the proposed school district fee schedule, our dues would increase approximately $120 per month per child just to cover the facility costs. For my family, that would be an additional $2,520 every year. And as we lose members of our swim club because people can't afford that, the cost would go up even higher. Many families cannot afford that. Reasonable club fees are what allows kids to play multiple sports, try new activities, stay engaged and active. If the school boards and administrators are allowed to charge these exorbitant fees, the clubs will close or become affordable only to wealthy families. I'm also an emergency medicine physician here in Cheyenne. Our youth are struggling more than ever with mental health, with anxiety, and they need sports and activities in general. They provide physical outlets, they teach work ethic, they offer countless benefits, they put them in contact with great coaches that are just invaluable, and we should be supporting that. I thank you for your time and encourage your support of this bill. Thank you, Senator Scott. I think no fees are the answer, and I hope we somewhere at time get to that. But in the dialogues that we have had recently, they're charging us for things that are already being paid for. Swimming pools sound very expensive, but they're really not that much more expensive when they're already built and you have to keep the chemicals in them and the lights on. Our coaches do things like offer to do the chemical checks and the things like that that the high school coaches can do. And it falls on deaf ears, and they want to charge these fees so that we pay for the pool that's already been paid for. So I thank you for your help.
I didn't catch your last name, Amy.
Tortorich.
Torridge, okay. Questions for Ms. Torridge? Any questions? Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Who's next?
Good morning. I'm Addie DeLay with Capital City Athletics.
And my name is Brindley Batson. I'm a sophomore at Cheyenne Central High School, and I'm a swimmer with Capital City Athletics. I am here today to support the Senate Final 90 and to share why the bill matters to youth athletes like me. For swimmers, access to a pool is not just optional, it's essential. Unlike many sports, we cannot practice without a safe, available facility. In many Wyoming communities, the only public pool large enough for training and competition are owned by school districts. When access to those facilities become uncertain or limited, it can mean kids simply lose the opportunity to participate in their sport. Capital City Athletics brings together kids from different schools, backgrounds, and skill levels and gives us a place to train, belong, and improve. It's one of the many ways swimmers in our community can keep doing the sport they love. Senate File 90 matters because it helps make sure school facilities stay accessible for youth activities. In many towns, school pools are the only places available for teams like ours to practice. The bill makes sure these spaces are treated as community resources meant to support students, not like private businesses that price kids out. Youth sports are already require commitment, time, and resources. Adding uncertainty around facility access makes it harder for clubs and families to plan practices, host meets, and keep kids involved in positive activities. For many swimmers in Wyoming, losing access to a pool could mean losing their sport entirely. Sports should be about giving kids a place to belong, stay active, and grow. Senate File 90 helps protect those opportunities. I respectfully ask you to support the Senate File 90 and continue to protect fair and consistent access to school facilities for Wyoming youth athletes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Does anybody have any questions for these young ladies? Yes, go ahead, Senator Brandon.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your testimony. I'm glad you guys are swimmers. I'm biased towards pools. I'll just get that out there. Has there ever been a time when you guys were planning on practicing in a pool and then you weren't able to practice for a period of time? Do you know?
This December, we weren't able to swim in our local school pools, and we had to go to the municipal for a week during our winter break.
They also won't allow us access to the pools in August, and the girls start swimming for high school in September. So you can imagine that that is a problem.
And just to follow up on the pools, you folks don't have a rec center here in Cheyenne, do you? So the only access to a pool would be through the schools then, is that correct?
We have a pool.
Oh, you do?
The municipal pool is not it doesn't have blocks and it's not deep enough to dive. And
Okay.
it's actually not the proper length.
Okay.
So it's water.
Oh, I got you. Okay, thank you. And for these folks? No? Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Anyone else that would like to testify on this bill, please come forward. Welcome, everyone. Please introduce yourselves and tell us what you want us to know.
Hi, my name is Sam Tortorich. I'm here as a parent of 3 swimmers. I am Amy's husband. I also serve, and I'm not here in this capacity, but I have served as the attorney for the local swim club here in Cheyenne. I just want to echo a few comments. First, I spoke this last weekend to coaches from Casper as well as swim club parents from Laramie, and they share these issues in their communities as well. There's an encroachment of that, for 40 years, we've had policies that specifically said, not only here in Laramie County, but throughout Wyoming, that there would be no fees that would be charged to local clubs. Those were the board level policies. Beyond our policy here said custodial services on Saturdays and Sundays, if not in use. And these policies were written in the late 90s when schools weren't used the way that they are today. And so these were the policies that were for decades in place here in Wyoming. The idea being that we spent this money to build these facilities for kids. Of course, we should be trying to maximize the use by those children. So this encroachment has just come in the last 6 or 7 years. It's not coming through the board. It's coming generally through administration without notice or an opportunity to be heard. One of the things that was raised here by the school board administrator was that we could simply just dispute the fees with the district. We tried to have those conversations with the district and we landed in court for over a year in our district court here, spending tens of thousands of dollars of district money fighting for policies that aren't even worth the amount of money we spent in litigation fighting to try to ultimately keep kids out of these facilities. I'm looking at a bill that was sent to our club again. They tried to install it after that litigation. They came back and prior to the litigation, they were looking at something like $40,000 a year. They're now asking for upwards of $55,000 a year just from the pool club. We did the math through discovery. We took depositions in that matter and obtained chemical invoices and so forth. The cost for this additional use for the swim club here in this county is no more than $5,000. About $4,000 in chemicals and an additional $1,000 to use the custodial services on Sunday when the school district wouldn't otherwise be using custodial services. They came back with new fee policies. Again, no notice, no opportunity to be heard, just carte blanche by the administration. And I'm looking at a bill where they were charging during the day from 3:30 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. So this is during the school day. They were trying to charge us $150 to use the pool. They were trying to charge $45 for custodial staff and an additional $53 for a pool technician. The pool technician's sole job is to check the chemicals in the pool. I'm sure most of you have seen at public pools that it's actually kids who are checking the chemicals. We have coaches, we have highly qualified people. What they need to do is keep a log of the chemicals. They need to check a public pool every 4 hours. That could easily be done before they leave for the day. There's no necessity for that pool technician to be on site or available while we've been using the pool. We've been using this pool twice a day, 4 to 5 days a week for 14 years. So we use the pool more than 3 hours a day, and we've been 5 days a week for 14 years. We're one of the primary users of the pool. One of the things that the district fails to understand is that there is no competitive swimming program without year-round club sports. It may be unfortunate that that's the nature of athletics in this era, but that is the nature of athletics. There will be no state qualified swimmers if not for a club program that needs to operate year-round. So these are the costs that they try to impose. As my wife indicated, that policy is suspended. They've currently looked at adding different components of the policy. We have yet to understand what the fee schedule might look like because they have not introduced that portion of the policy. Presumably, they're waiting to see how this works out in the legislature. I want to echo the issue about incremental costs. I think that bill highlights what the school district, and this is September of 25. So this was right before they ultimately suspended their policy for the time being. So this was the most recent invoice that they attempted to send to us and expected us to pay. on a daily basis. So the language that Senator Rothfuss put forward in that amendment, I'm highly supportive of that language. That language is, I think, as Mr. Milczewski said, Christmas morning, and I echo that support. That is the exact language that we would need that I think is specifically tailored to address the incremental costs that are borne by the additional specific use and not allowing the districts to allow us simply pass on costs that they are already required to incur. I think that with that, those are my comments. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Tortorich? Hope I didn't hassle that. Did I slaughter that last name?
Perfect.
I was close. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Scott?
Chair, one comment. We'll do our best in terms of getting this legislation going and moving and solving the problem. But there's some other problems in the Cheyenne School District. There's another remedy beyond coming to the legislature, and that is to get some of your members and join with other people that are having difficulties with school district and get a different school board. Those are elected officials. And that may be a more effective route than anything we can do.
If I may respond, I'm proud of our
Go ahead.
club and our parents who have showed up in force during the 3 school board meetings while they were taking this. We need 5 citizens to request a hearing since they decided not to follow the Wyoming Administrative Procedures Act. We were still allowed to ask for a hearing. We can't demand a hearing, but we did request the hearing, and 5 of our club members stood up to do that. While they were considering the petition for the hearing during those 3 meetings, we had over 300 members attend, probably closer to 200. I think the numbers, about 200 members attend each of those 3 board meetings. And although the stated reason for the suspension of the policy was the closure of the YMCA here in our district, I suspect that it was the community outcry that really came forward from. And as you see, we have young women, young men in our clubs that are willing to come and be bold and testify before the legislature. And they also stood up in force before our school district. So I thank you, Senator Scott, and we are doing the best that we can to move the ball forward.
Thank you so much for your comments. Let's move on. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is April Ojeda, and I am here as a parent of 3 young children involved in wrestling. So I definitely appreciate the various sports being discussed today. But in the world of wrestling, you have to have a safe space. You have to have lots and lots of mats because there's lots and lots of airtime, if you will. And the only places that offer that, unless you have a large amount of money to pay for yourself, is in a school district. And we travel all over the state and the country. But in Wyoming, every tournament we attend outside of the state tournament is within a school facility because they have the sizable gyms and wrestling rooms that are matted, and the mats are paid for. So I would definitely be in support of this bill, one, for the safety of our children. Every county in Wyoming outside of Natrona County practices in a school facility after school. We follow the high school teams, so we, go through the appropriate avenues as well to have that in the evenings. But it's a huge detriment when we are also having the same issues. One with access, that's already been discussed, the facilities department, the website, the scheduling, the nonprofit. We also are seeing all of that 100% with denials and things like that. Outside of the fee schedule, again, we're being charged custodial fees where there's not a custodian in a wrestling room. We maintain all of our own space when we're there cleaning and things like that. And I just lost my train of thought and I apologize, but
It's okay.
thank you.
Questions for Ms. Ojeda? Did I say that right? Any questions? It's nice to hear from a wrestling parent. You know, I know these facilities are being used by every sport under the sun, so it's great to hear from you.
My other comment, I apologize, is that wrestling is not offered in the school district before middle school. And so these kids have to start young. And so we too train year round, about 9 months out of the year, with the exception of August that our schools are closed. But it takes a lot of that training and skill in keeping our kids active and safe and, you know, that growth until they can get into the school sports.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I don't see any other questions for you, so appreciate it. I know this young lady, but I know she's probably going to have to introduce herself for the record.
Good morning, Teresa Chalk, Superintendent, Lincoln County School District number 1. And I guess I wasn't going to speak on this bill because quite frankly, I'm saddened that you need to address it. It shouldn't happen in Wyoming. Our schools are there for all of our students. But a couple things I wanted to point out, like, and we do have policies in Kimmer on the use and not for profit. They're not charged unless it's a custodial fee and they know going into it. And even for profit in our little community, we charge a whopping $10 an hour because you're making money. So we work well with our wrestling club, with our swimming club. And the one concern that I wasn't going to bring up, but insurance was brought up. So we do have to charge insurance, or we don't charge, we make sure that you have insurance. And it's because what Senator Rafa said, we could lose our liability insurance if we allow public use and they don't have insurance. They could say, nope, we're going to raise your rates or take your insurance. So an example, I actually teach an exercise class, no charge, but I pay liability insurance to teach that in my own school where I work. So if you could fix the insurance, that would be much appreciated, probably for all 48 districts. And 2, pools are expensive. So I just want to remind you, if House Bill 127 makes it to the Senate, we shouldn't have to vote for public rec mills because we spend $90,000 of our public rec mill on our pool every year. And our entire community, Kimmer, Diamondville, Opal, the library, benefit from that rec mill. So if it makes it over here, please kill it. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Superintendent Chalk? Yes, go ahead, Senator
I
Brennan.
do. First of all, thank you for your testimony and for bringing up that insurance piece, because that is something that I think I appreciate. I'm all for studying that. And second, I want to thank and commend you and your district for realizing the importance of these facilities, and that you guys are not one of those districts that we're trying to address with this. With that, I don't feel like that there's anything in this that we're still trying to give local control, that we're not telling those smaller districts and that those districts that are doing right, that this is, the intent is not for those districts. I just want to make sure that you feel the same way.
Chairwoman Schuler, yes, no, I'm fine with the bill. And I did want to just say that we do work with our wrestling club. We've gotten together and purchased mats together because we both use them. But we do need to work together and have an open relationship. And I just, I'm sorry that we have to talk about this today, but yeah, we're here for our kids.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any other questions? Appreciate the time that you took to come and give us your testimony, all of you. Thanks. Anyone else in the room that would like to testify on this bill? Okay, do we have anybody online?
At this time, we have one individual, Trinity, and I will invite her into the room.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Trinity should be online.
Hello, hello.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, perfect. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of SF90. My name is Trinity Warner, and I'm a Laramie County native supporting this bill today. I'm calling in from my dorm room at Grandview University in Des Moines, Iowa, where I received a full-ride scholarship to attend college and be a part of the women's wrestling team here, which is an opportunity I would have never have been fortunate enough to have without club sports. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was given in-school suspension after getting into a fight. While I am not proud of these actions, I am very grateful for the repercussions because my ISS teacher was also the head wrestling coach. He encouraged me to turn my emotions toward a positive outlet and recommend I try a wrestling practice or two. That is where my love for the sport ignited, and it was a moment that changed my life forever and will always leave a mark on who I am and who I strive to be as a person. While I am thankful for the high school wrestling team, I really owe my success in even being scouted by Grandview University to the ongoing work and dedication of club sports after day in and day out. It was the off-season training, the summer camps, the USA tournaments opportunity, and the endless amount of mat time that helped me get to where I am today, and increasing these club sports fees to utilize school facilities like the wrestling room that would have otherwise get used only 3 months out of the year is a huge detriment to the community and future athletes like me. Furthermore, my mom is a single mom of 3 kids, and I'm proud to be the first female wrestler coming from South High to get a full scholarship and make it out of Wyoming. My parents would not have been able to afford this university for me, and certainly not the club fees with the rising cost to use the facility. I would like to ensure that other kids like me also have opportunities to learn a new sport, grow with it, and earn scholarships from their talents. Without the opportunity I was given, I would not be who I am today or where I am today. I come before you today to urge you to vote yes on SF 90 and help keep club sports in Wyoming affordable and accessible to all youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner, and thanks for taking the time all the way from Iowa to let us know about your experiences in Wyoming. Any questions for Trinity? Okay, well, I don't see any questions, but good luck and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. Last one, I guess we had a second thought about testifying. Okay, last one, bring it up. Hi.
I'm the librarian at Sheridan High School. And I don't really have any gain in saying this, but I can tell you because of my almost 25 years working at the high school that our district does very well in sports. And we have I cannot think, our gyms are used all the time. So are swimming pools. We work with our community. And I see this as discrimination. Why does one school district or school districts across the state are able to develop commitment and work with their communities and others do not? So I ask you to do whatever you can for equality because, librarians are all about discrimination. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Okay, thanks for your testimony. Yes. Okay, with that, I think we'll go ahead and close testimony then. What's your pleasure on this bill, committee? Okay, it's been moved by Senator Scott. We've got the second over here. Potential amendments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I move on page 2 to replace the A paragraph, lines 11 through 14 with the paragraph that I previously described. I'll repeat it. A, not exceed the hourly rate of personnel, equipment, utility, and supply costs actually incurred by the district for the specific use of the property during each rental period, comma, limited to direct, comma, incremental costs that would not otherwise have been incurred, semicolon, provided that nothing in this paragraph shall require the district to charge any fee, comma, and the district may permit use without charge, period.
Corey, did you happen to get all that? Or should we have him read it again? Oh, he'll email it to you. Is that?
Yep, that works perfect for me.
Do you need it repeated, anybody? No. Okay. All right. Discussion on the amendment. I think it's a good one. Senator.
If I just might, I want to thank the committee for that discussion prior. I was going to bring these concerns actually in our discussion, and it's a very friendly amendment, and appreciate Senator Rothfuss writing up those words, and I think maybe Senator Olson helped him on that, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote on that amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that amendment is passed. There was somebody suggested on page 2 adding supplies after equipment. Is that something? That's in there. Okay. I had a feeling it probably was. Just wanted to make sure. So any other amendments, committee? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on Senate File 90.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 90 as amended. Senator Brennan,
Aye.
Senator Olson,
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss,
Aye.
Senator Scott, Chairwoman Schuler.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes.
Okay. And I assume Senator Brennan, you'll take that up on the floor, right?
I will.
Okay. Excellent. And we'll turn the time back over to our acting chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. The next bill for our consideration is Senate File 72, the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact, and it is brought to us by Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate File 72, again, this is a constituent bill. I had an administrator up in the northwestern part of the state that asked me to take a look at this bill. He is the administrator of a school. Some of you might be familiar with the CBRV. They deal with a lot of kids that have some real issues that sometimes can't be in a public school for a lot of different reasons. And he was having a really difficult time trying to get teachers to come up there and in this particular area. And so he asked if I would take a look at this Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. And so basically what this bill does, you just enter into a compact with other states to allow teachers licensed in one compact state to teach in those other compact states. And the first 7 pages are all definitions. So you could probably, or at least starting on 3, they're all definitions. And so, but the on page 2 and 3, I think the purpose for the compact is to facilitate the mobility of teachers across those states, to give them a new pathway to licensure, and basically create a streamlined pathway to licensure and mobility. It also would help support the relocation of eligible military spouses, facilitate and enhance the exchange of licensure, and basically, I think the most important thing is that it maintains state sovereignty in the regulation of the teaching profession. So the receiving state still has sovereignty over their rules and regulations. One thing I also mentioned on introduction is the Department of Education indicated that they would cover any of the administrative costs if there are any, and there may be some. There's a few other things in the bill. It's a long bill, and compact bills generally are. But the biggest thing I think to take away from this is that those teachers would still have to follow the regulations of our PTSB here. They would have to undergo, background checks, be fingerprinted just like any teacher would be. And I know there is a section here that talks a little bit about CTE, because obviously states around the country have some different regulations for CTE, and we're really trying to encourage more CTE in our state. So hopefully this might help this bill with that. The state superintendent is also involved to some degree, as well as the PTSB with this. And it also makes a section in here about if, for instance, PTSB takes a look at a teacher that, if we pass this, that is coming in from another state, and they don't feel like the regulations from, let's just say, Missouri, fit the regulations that we have here, they can certainly say no. It's the receiving state that gets to decide what they will and what they won't accept. And so the idea is just to try to make things a little bit more streamlined, maybe enhance things. I know sometimes different times of the year, and I think our PTSB director is here today. He can probably talk about this, but I know there's different times of the year when things can get a little bogged down. They have a very, very small department. And I know when people are trying to do renewals, there are folks out there that do wait until the last minute to try to get their renewals done. So I hope this bill would help with that. And also, we know that we are seeing some issues around the state with some of our districts being unable to fill spots, whether it be special ed, whether it be, math, whether it be, foreign languages. There's different areas in different schools where they're really having a tough time. This, I think, will help. And also maybe it'll help some of these smaller districts that maybe someone in Missouri doesn't know how cool encampment is. But if they come and they teach there and they are able to get, certified in Wyoming, maybe they'll love Wyoming like we do and stay here. So that's really, I think, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's a very long bill, but it keeps the state sovereignty. It gives us the final say, but it does, I think it will possibly, hopefully, facilitate licensure with those folks from out of state. We would prefer to have all in-state kids that go to UW, but we know that we're seeing fewer and fewer grads go through UW for education. So we know we have to kind of reach out amongst other states and hopefully this bill will help. With that, I would stand for any questions.
Oh, yes, Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I
It's a
forgot
Mr.
I was
Chairman
here.
this time. Sorry. Who's chairman? Wait,
Yeah.
what? Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I may have stepped out for the brief moment while this was mentioned, but how many states are currently signed onto the compact?
Senator Schuler.
I knew you were going to ask me that. I'm going to say 20.
Okay.
I'm not, don't hold me to it. I'll go double check when we get back upstairs.
Thanks. And one other question. We have in statute, because we passed legislation several years ago, a good bit of language related to military families that provides for either expedited licensure or just a waiver of licensure. And I actually can't remember all the details, but we passed probably like 3 bills on it.
Yeah.
To expedite that. And I see that this gets into that. And I was just wondering if there's any conflict there between what we already have in statute for military family teaching licensure and the way this is carried out.
Senator Schuler.
Yeah, Senator, I looked at that also. I don't think it does, but I think I would probably err on the side of PTSB to see if they see an issue there. But when I looked at the bill, I just looked at one of them that we had passed recently, and I didn't see anything there that this would have an issue with. So.
Okay, and
Senator Office.
Mr. Chairman, one other question. I think there's flexibility in this, but then I don't know how it would play out if we were flexible. Where, for example, on the literacy bill that we're working on right now, we're going to have some requirements associated with literacy expertise, and that will be by rule of our board. And so we'll have a different level of requirement than we had in the past for ongoing licensure, as well as initial licensure. But my question would be, a teacher moves from a state that has what is effectively a lower requirement for literacy. As an example, and they come to Wyoming, how does this provide for that circumstance? Would they be temporarily licensed and have to then over the next few years achieve our full licensure level? Or would it just through the compact be, if they had licensure in Mississippi, they're going to have licensure in Wyoming, and the additional provisions and constraints that we've put on through the PTSB would not necessarily be respected? How does that work when we have differences in what the licensure means?
Senator Schuler.
Yes, good question, Senator. Basically, the receiving state gets to make the final decision. So if our director of PTSB says, it looks like what you're doing in Missouri is not going to fit in. You're a reading specialist over there, but you're really not a reading specialist in Wyoming, based on what we have in our requirements for a reading specialist or literacy specialist, however you want to put it. They would say no, thanks. You're going to have to get some more classes in this area or whatever. So it basically, the receiving state gets to make all the final decisions on that.
And quick follow-up on that.
Senator Office.
Does it talk about provisional licensure in here as a portion of that, or would we just have enough flexibility to do that? Because I'd see that happening a lot, where you provide provisional licensure and then a certain window for remedy to maintain licensure. And I know we do that frequently with PTSB. It seems like a reasonable way to bring someone from another state through a compact and then ensure that they become compliant. Is there language for that here? Is it flexible enough for that? Or is that something that we would want to contemplate a way to add?
Senator Schuler.
Yeah, good question. The way I read the bill, no. It basically just puts the onus on our state, our PTSB. If they choose to give a provisional based on their requirements and what they feel like they've got most of the requirements, looks like we can give them provisional, but basically it's up to our professional teacher standards board and them only.
Yes, Senator Rothfuss, I think your Article 4, starting on page 10, is licensure not under the compact. And this is the article that spells out that PTSB can have additional requirements above and beyond whatever the compact requires. It can require whatever it wants to require.
Okay, I see it. Mr. Chairman, and even quite specifically on page 11, thanks for pointing
Yeah.
that out. That B paragraph really gets at that. So thank you.
Other questions, Senator Scott?
Chairman, one general comment. We've got quite a number of very similar provisions in the healthcare area that we've been developing really past 15, 20 years. And I've been sitting here and I cannot remember a single instance where those have gotten us in any kind of real trouble. You have the same rate of I suppose, people who turn evil and do things they shouldn't. But I can't think of a single instance where one of these compacts, it makes it easier for licenses to come from one state to the next, has caused us any trouble.
Any response, Senator Schuler?
No, I mean, I have certainly
Wouldn't you
been.
agree?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would certainly agree. I haven't been around the block as long as Senator Scott, but just since I've been in the legislature, we passed a few compact bills since I've been in here, and I would agree that the idea is to try to help out issues that we're having where we have problems receiving the kinds of folks that we need. And like I said, I wish we were turning out more folks within our state that were wanting to go into education, but we just aren't. And that may have something to do with just our declining enrollment. But this is just a way to help, particularly, like I said, for the gentleman that brought this bill. And he has to have some specialty areas. He's just not finding people that he can fill the spots in his school. And they provide a really important alternative for some of our public schools with the kids that they have up there. And so I think this compact will help, districts like that, schools like that, but maybe also others that maybe more rural schools. This might help them more than anybody else, to be right honest. So shortages are happening in Wyoming, and so I hope this bill will help. Thank you.
Committee, any other questions for Senator Schuler? All right, if not, we'll go to public comment, WDE and PTSB. Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Nish Goikolea, Chief Policy Officer with the Wyoming Department of Education. Here on behalf of Superintendent Dagenfelder, who wholeheartedly supports this bill. Teacher recruitment is a priority for the department, and especially while maintaining high standards, we find that this bill would do that. Thank you.
Any questions for the department? All right, we appreciate your testimony. You're up.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Olson. Brendan O'Connor, Executive Director of the Professional Teaching Standards Board. And committee members, I've been watching and monitoring the progress of the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact through my professional association, or PTSB's professional association, who is a partner of that. And the title of it's a long title. It's the National Association of State Directors for Teacher Education and Certification, or NASDEC. NASDEC has partnered with the Department of Defense, who is actually one of the main proponents of the compact, and the Council of State Governments, who helped draft the compact language. And so these three organizations have come together to partner to support the mobility of licensed teachers through the development of this compact. It does create a more streamlined reciprocity among participating states and reduces barriers to license portability and employment. The compact actually is in effect across 13 states. There's an additional state, I think it is Mississippi, since they were mentioned, who modified the language enough that they are not considered a compact state. But they're kind of there. So they're colored differently on the map. But our partner, or our surrounding states, Utah, Colorado, and Nebraska, are compact states. As a compact, this is a contract among the states, and so it needs to be as comparable to this language as possible. Or otherwise, it gets kind of awkward, I guess, like Mississippi has. Compact states do have membership on the commission that has now been formed. The commission was formed after the 10th state ratified the compact. And so Wyoming would be represented if this goes through. I want to be clear, the compact does not solve any teacher shortage, but it does offer another route. And again, streamlining of already licensed professionals into Wyoming, especially those in the military. Many states, Wyoming is one of them. As you're transitioning in, we're looking for like 3 years of work experience previously to help waive some requirements. Sometimes military spouses or military members, they're moving around more frequently than that, and they can't document that. So we could still accept their full license as long as it's a full license that we would accept to come in. And that's the streamlining portion of it. It actually helps them that way, minimizes some of the things that we may have in place that can create some problems that we're not really intending to. There will be a cost to this, and at this point, it's indeterminate. PTSB is certainly happy to have the Department of Education pay that cost, but I'm actually anticipating that we will be paying for that cost as actually the member state and the member representation and as the licensing agency. We do have some bills about expediting military processing. In our applications itself, we do have some checkmark question answers. Are you military? Are you military spouse? We do expedite those. We have been doing that for a number of years. This would not change that. That language is still in our applications. The only modification we may need to do to our application is just, are you moving from a compact state? And so that we could recognize that and say, okay, if so, then we will do these other things. And Senator Olson, Chairman Olson, mentioned on page 11 that if states have different requirements, and most states do, they often have, like the Wyoming Constitution would be an example of it, or some states have working with indigenous populations and those type of things. We could still fully license an educator as they're coming into the state, but upon renewal of that license, they would need to meet that requirement. And so in this case, in the literacy example that you mentioned, we would treat them perhaps like an already licensed teacher in Wyoming who, upon renewal, would need to meet the literacy competency piece. I want to make sure that I have met that. Senator Scott did mention there's a number of healthcare compacts across the state. I did briefly visit with the director of the Board of Medicine, and he has found great success in being a partner of a compact state. And I don't foresee really any big issues for PTSB in processing. We actually do pretty well with reciprocity. We don't actually call it that because it's not a straight acceptance always. This would make it a little more straight acceptance. If you're fully licensed in that other state, then we'll look at that and make sure that you're fully licensed in Wyoming if we have something that's comparable. If we don't have it, we can't issue it. One part that I haven't heard yet is the idea of an unencumbered license. And what that means is that there's no action, no disciplinary action against that educator in the sending state, in the home state. We would not accept anyone who's under any investigation for that or who has been reported for an act that would violate our disciplinary rules as well. So it's a clear thing. We do still take the background check. We still collect the fees. We still have the authority and the jurisdiction as they're practicing in Wyoming to take any disciplinary matters. And the executive director of NASDAQ, Jimmy Adams, I believe, is on the line. And he can additionally answer questions, and I'm happy to answer any as well.
Mr. O'Connor, so in Article 13, there is a provision that gives me a little bit of heartburn, and it's subparagraph B. It says that any laws, statutes, regulations, or other legal requirements in a member state, so in Wyoming, if we adopt this, in conflict with this compact are superseded to the extent of the conflict. So I find that a little concerning that this is a pretty substantial bill. So to know every aspect of its reach is pretty hard for us to do in our civilian legislator position. You probably have spent a lot more time with this compact. So my question for you is just, do you feel comfortable with this compact as written, not conflicting with any major state laws, rules, or regulations that would get us into any type of trouble, in the sense that if we wanted to rest back on any of our own laws or regulations, they would be superseded by this compact? So I just want to make sure from your perspective, there's nothing in this compact that would raise any red flags, or if you have any heartburn over this provision.
Chairman Olson, I am not a lawyer, as you are, and so I haven't dug into that piece. I would defer to Director Adams, who is a lot more in the weeds on this and has seen this play out in the other states that have adopted it.
Okay, that's fair. Any questions for Mr. O'Connor? All right, thank you. Any other public testimony in the room before we go online? Let's finish out the room. And what's the name of the gentleman online?
The individual online is Jimmy Adams from NASDAQ. So that might be the director that's being referred to.
Mr. Adams, okay. We'll get to Mr. Adams after we finish up this testimony here. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Clark Fairbanks. I'm the director of the Wyoming Youth Service Association, a nonprofit organization representing prevention, crisis group home, BOCES, residential treatment centers, including psychiatric residential treatment. I stand in support of Senate File 72, the Interstate Teacher Compact. I believe entering into the compact with other states would allow licensed teachers from compact states to more easily and expedite licensure for those licensed teachers to be employed in schools such as those represented by our association. As Chairman Schuler had mentioned, we have a hard time competing many times with our public school teachers and have significant shortages for teachers. And sometimes, especially shoulder communities, find, in addition to people moving into our communities, find teachers that are trying to come into Wyoming from those shoulder states. And this might more easily allow them to do that and to fill some of the needs that we have. And so with that, I would just stand for any questions that you might have. But thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Fairbanks? All right, thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Nick Bellack. I'm representing the Wyoming School Boards Association, and we stand in favor of this teacher mobility compact. I'd like to start, it's really a practical workforce measure that reduces some of the unnecessary barriers and modernizes a lot of the trends in governance we've been seeing with other professions. We see this, that there are many mobility compacts around the state already, and this kind of follows in suit with that. I have some intimate experience as a licensed teacher and work with educator licensure, and oftentimes it's a candidate's first foray into understanding that different jurisdictions have different policies and different rules, and it sometimes comes as a surprise to them that they'll have to meet some of these other expectations. If we can do that, and especially some of the testimony that was given, we have 3 of our contiguous states that are part of this already. And if that can ease that, that is definitely an ease of a burden on the applicant, a burden on the district, understanding what is actually licensable. And then, of course, just generally for the teacher's ability to be licensed in the state. So it takes away a lot of that heartburn, and I think it's definitely a good way to improve and modernize how we look at this. So with that, I'll stand for any questions, and just to repeat, we are absolutely in favor of this.
Committee, any questions? All right, thank you, Nick. Any other public testimony in the room? Well, let's go online. We have Mr. Adams.
Mr. Adams should be online here in just a second.
All right, welcome, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, and appreciate the time to be here today. As Brendan O'Connor said, I am Jimmy Adams. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of State Directors of Teacher Education and Certification, or NASTEC. And I'm joined today with my 18-month-old granddaughter, so hopefully she will be polite as we're going through this for a few minutes. But thank you for allowing us to be here today and speak on behalf of the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. We all know that teachers don't move very often. About 65% stay in the geographical region where they were raised and where they went to school. But when they do move, it's typically because of life circumstances, such as a spouse being transferred, or whether they be in the military or other employment. And they also may find it necessary to move to take care of an aging relative. What they find difficult is the state-specific requirements that do not recognize their professional work from another state that could be 5, 10, 20 years, and a professional license that is a high-level license, typically the highest level license that you can get. And those are the only licenses that actually qualify for the compact. For over 95 years, NASDAQ has worked to improve the portability of teacher licensures or licenses, and we serve as the host for the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. The compact that you're discussing in Senate File 72 allows each member state to identify those high-level licenses, again, not just any license, but a high-level license within that state that meet the same level of professionalism as in other states, where the professional teacher holds a bachelor's degree, has completed a state-approved educator preparation program, and has no outstanding requirements, and is also subject to your state laws around criminal background records check. The additional thing that we do through the compact is that each license or licensee who comes in and applies will be checked against the NASDAQ Clearinghouse. And the NASDAQ Clearinghouse is a database of administrative actions that have been taken against all educators licensed in the 50 states, Ontario, and some U.S. territories since 1985. And by meeting these criteria, the receiving state can then issue an equivalent license based on the 3 components of content, grade level, and student population, and eliminating the overhead of processing paperwork and delays due to the teacher having to provide additional verifying documentation already verified in the sending state. We are working on a data exchange system that will actually allow that information to be transferred from one state to another one. And through this compact, each state is able to maintain their autonomy and have full control over the licenses they issue. Unlike the other compacts, occupational compacts, this one creates a streamlined process by which the teacher can receive a license in the eligible or the member state and become eligible for employment. Most others, except for one, allow you to operate or work in a state from a license from another state. We wanted to make sure that each state had full autonomy with the licenses and that they would issue their own licenses. This is a win-win, as the professional educators gained increased mobility, which is consistent with being a professional, and states benefit from a wider door for effective educators and reclaiming those who may have left the profession rather than trying to navigate the out-of-state requirements for licensure. Thank you for your consideration and time. I'll be glad to stay online and try to address any questions that you all have.
Questions for Mr. Adams? No? All right, I guess you get off easy, Mr. Adams. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public testimony online? You have one question. Oh, wait, Mr. Adams, are you still there? Let's bring him back in. I guess we do have a question.
I forgot to ask about your question. Thank you.
I'm back.
All right, welcome back, Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Adams, I did have one question. On the bill on page 41, the B paragraph that Senator Olson mentioned a few minutes ago, it lays out the specific language, any laws, statutes, regulations, or other legal requirements in a member state in conflict with this compact are superseded to the extent of the conflict. When we've worked compacts in the past, this provision is often in compacts, and it is a sticking point often for the Wyoming legislature that our statutes would defer to a compact rather than the compacts deferring to our statutes when in conflict. What are your thoughts on this? How concerned would you be if we ended up removing this B paragraph through the process? Because I do think that everything else in here is probably easy to convince the legislature of, but again, the idea of deferring to a compact over statute is usually unpopular with legislators.
Mr. Adams.
Fully understand your concern and appreciate that. One thing that you've already pointed out, this is very typical boilerplate language that is in all compacts, is my understanding. It's not just around the teaching profession, but in other occupational licenses as well. The thing that you need to keep in mind is when you look at this, you're looking at what I will refer to in layperson's terms as a full professional license. It's not a temporary provisional. It's not an emergency license. This is a license that has had to meet the same standards that you have in your state from other states concerning having a bachelor's degree, also having no encumbrances upon that, and having to complete a state-approved educator preparation program. So it's not just any license that's coming in. What is kind of beneficial for this is when someone doesn't qualify under the compact, you still have the ability to use all your other pathways by which you can issue a license. And most states, I would say 90+% of the time, will find a way, if they can issue a license, to do that. On the concern about taking that out, that's part of the reason why, as Brendan O'Connor said earlier, Mississippi is not a member of the compact right now. They changed their language because all states have to agree to the same language, and you've got 13 states that have already agreed to this. And they put in there, as interpreted by Mississippi law. Shh, hold on. As interpreted by Mississippi law, which you cannot enforce Mississippi law in Wyoming, nor can you enforce Wyoming law in Mississippi. So that has been the change, one of the changes that would unfortunately not allow you to be in the compact. But again, we're not talking any license. We're talking a very high level license that the teacher most likely has 5+ years of experience.
Senator Rothfuss, please.
Thank you for that clarification. And I do understand this is one of those compact challenges that we've had in the past. I guess the concern with the B paragraph is that it does seem broader than just what you described. It's very generally written as opposed to narrowly written to the specific licensure, for example, the general licensure. Have any other states of the 13 amended this provision in any way successfully?
Mr. Adams.
No, the only one that had was Mississippi, and as I say, they were not accepted into the compact as a result of that. One thing that I do want to try to emphasize on this that I failed to mention is this is a different compact than anything you've ever seen before. The only other one that is similar to this is the school psychologist compact, which is really a mirror image. Both of these do not allow a person to work in your state on a license from another state. They allow for an expedited way by which a person can receive a license in your state, proving that they've met the standards of the compact. What that means is that once you've issued the license, The compact has no authority anymore, and all your state statutes kick in from then on. So it's really just about the issuance of the license is all this takes place with. Now, where there has been concern, and I think Mr. O'Connor addressed a little bit of this, is you may have certain things, requirements that you have on a license, and that those can still be enforced, but the person would have to demonstrate that at the time of renewal of the license. But there's nothing in the compact that would say those things have to be met within X months of receiving the new license in the new state.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rothfuss. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? Close public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure on Senate File 72? It's been moved by Senator Scott and seconded by Senator Brennan. There any amendments or discussion on this bill?
Mr. Chairman, I
Senator Scott?
would add one comment. Passing this will help us in recruiting a number of the health professionals because a real sticking point can be job for the spouse. And in modern era, that's getting more and more important. And this will assist, will be a mutual assistance.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say, I think Senator Schuler, I'll say I'm a co-sponsor of this bill, so I support this bill. I can understand where Mississippi had concerns with the provision that gives the ultimate trump card to the compact over Wyoming state law. That it is common in compact language from what I understand, but it is still concerning. There's also provisions in this bill that say that if that jurisdiction is in the home state of wherever the compact is located, so you can't sue in the state of Wyoming. That's also a barrier to access if there was an issue with the compact. The district court that you appeal to is the District Court of Washington, D.C., so it's not jurisdictionally based in Wyoming and within our district of the state of Wyoming. So those are probably common amongst all compacts though. So I have a little bit of heartburn with those provisions, but I don't think we can do much about it because there's no point in amending it to the point that you're not a compact state. So obviously I support the bill. I just wanted to kind of voice those concerns. Anything else on this bill? All right, we do a roll call vote on Senate File 72.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 72. Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator Olson?
Aye.
Senator Rothfuss? Chairman Scott? I'm sorry, Senator Scott, Chairwoman Schuler. That is 5 ayes, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, committee. And like I said, we saved the best till last, right? Yours and my bill. We really wanted to get everybody else's bills out first, and I think that was important that we got that taken care of. So thanks everyone for your testimony. Appreciate PTSB being here, and of course the Wyoming State Department of Education. So with that, we'll